You want the whole truth? Fine, I'll give it to you. No filters, no holding back. Because honestly, I'm done pretending to care how it sounds. My name's Sienna. I'm 29. And 3 weeks ago, my husband walked out, just packed a bag and vanished while I'm 8 months pregnant. And somehow, in the version everyone else believes, I'm the one to blame. Let's go back a bit. Felix and I met back in college, and we've been married 4 years now. We've been living in this moderately decent but ridiculously overpriced apartment in Dallas ever since, still paying out the nose for it, but that's not the point. Felix works in supply chain logistics, whatever that really means. Sounds technical, but in reality, he just spends his day glued to Excel spreadsheets. I do freelance web design, though lately work's been inconsistent at best, thanks to flaky clients. Now, if you had to sum up our relationship in one sentence, it'd be this: I've always been the fun one, the energy, the person who made sure we never turned into one of those couples that just melts into the couch every night watching mindless shows. Back in school, I was all about theater. Yeah, full on drama club member, and that part of me never really went away. Felix used to love that. He'd brag to his friends about how imaginative I was, how I could spin a story that made people stop mid sentence just to listen. I've always had a thing for harmless pranks, nothing cruel, just smart little setups to keep things interesting. Like this one time, not long after we got married, I faked a notice that our building was scheduled for fumigation. I printed signs, made it look legit. We ended up staying in a hotel for a few days and treated it like a surprise vacation. When I finally told him the truth, he laughed so hard he had to sit down. He said that spontaneity was exactly what made him fall for me. But lately, something's changed. Ever since I've been pregnant, it's like Felix sees me as breakable. Suddenly, I can't leave the house without explaining exactly where I'm going. If I glance at my phone, he's immediately asking who I'm talking to. It's like I've gone from being his partner to something delicate he's afraid might fall apart at any moment. And here's the strange part: he's developed this sixth sense for spotting when I'm joking. Like he can sniff out a story before I even finish the setup. I'll start one of my classic tall tales, and before I get to the punchline, he's already given me this knowing look, like he's too tired to play along. It ruins it. I don't just blurt out these things, they're crafted, detailed, clever, and now he won't even let them breathe. So maybe I've had to push myself a little. If he's going to raise the difficulty level, I've got no choice but to get more creative. That's the game. It's not on me that he's suddenly paranoid about everything. And just to be clear, this pregnancy has been uneventful. No drama, no emergencies, just the usual aches and annoyances. Felix has been plowing through every parenting book he can get his hands on and constantly asks how I'm doing. He wants to feel every little kick. Sometimes he just stares at my belly like it holds the secrets of the universe. Sure, it's sweet, sort of, but it also feels like I can't breathe. Yes, we're about to become parents. That doesn't mean every minute of our lives has to orbit around it. But lately, the way he treats me, that's the part that's suffocating. Take what happened 2 weeks ago. I was texting Brielle, just trying to figure out a time to meet for coffee. Felix noticed and immediately asked who I was talking to. I told him, and then came the interrogation. When? Where? How long? It didn't feel like concern. It felt like I was getting quizzed by a hall monitor. I finally asked when he started needing my itinerary. He said, I'm not asking for your schedule. I just want to know what's going on with you. But it didn't sound warm. It sounded like surveillance. And when I pointed that out, he got defensive, claimed he was just trying to be present. Present for what? My coffee order? Then a few days after that, he brought up money. Not rudely, but it rubbed me the wrong way anyway. He said, maybe we should review the budget before you buy more maternity clothes. Then he tacked on something about switching to store brand vitamins. Like suddenly, I need financial supervision because I'm pregnant. I told Brielle, and she said it sounds like Felix is having a fatherhood freakout and projecting it all on me, which honestly makes sense. Men get weird when they're scared, and Felix clearly is spiraling over money. But guess what? I didn't make this baby by myself. The last straw came the following Tuesday. We were on the couch after dinner watching TV. I was aimlessly scrolling through my phone, not texting anyone, just bored. And Felix leans over and goes, who are you messaging now? I told him no one. Just scrolling through random stuff. And he said, "You've been on your phone a lot lately." It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it, like he'd been quietly keeping track, filing away observations. Something inside me snapped. "Are you actually monitoring how often I'm on my phone now?" "I'm not tracking anything, Sienna," he said. But by then, it didn't matter. The damage was already done. He looked at me with a kind of scrutiny that made it clear something wasn't sitting right with him. "You seem distracted," he said. Distracted? Sure. Try being 8 months pregnant, constantly sore, exhausted beyond belief, and suffocating under his relentless attention. But sure, let's pretend I'm the one who's off. Then he suggested we might need to reconnect, said he's been feeling distant from me lately. And to be fair, he wasn't entirely wrong, at least about the distance. But that disconnect didn't start with me. Every time I tried to reintroduce a little spontaneity, a spark of joy, he acted like I'd upended our entire foundation. If I ever asked for a bit of breathing room, he responded like I was preparing to vanish completely. That night, after he finally fell asleep, I stayed up, turning over every memory of our time together. In the beginning, what drew Felix to me was how unpredictable I was. He used to say he loved never knowing what I'd do next. That was the thrill of it. But now, he craves structure, predictability, something he can manage. And that's never been who I am. Becoming a mother doesn't mean erasing myself to become someone more palatable. And it was in that moment that the perfect idea came to me. A prank so clever, so disorienting, that it would shake him out of his rigid assumptions. Something that would truly challenge the depth of his trust in me. If he really knew the woman he married, he'd know, without hesitation, that infidelity wasn't even a remote possibility. That was the entire point, to shine a light on just how paranoid and irrational he'd become. The affair angle was ideal. Felix wouldn't see it coming. I've never once given him a reason to doubt me, never even flirted with anyone else. Truthfully, I have very little interaction with men at all, maybe the occasional courier dropping something off. That's what made it brilliant. It was so wildly implausible that anyone who truly knew me would see through it instantly. And with the way Felix had been behaving, seeing shadows where there were none, this would prove his instincts had completely short-circuited. He'd been acting like I was some sort of unpredictable storm, when in reality, I've stayed exactly the same. By Wednesday, I started outlining the narrative. It had to be plausible just long enough to make him question, but flimsy enough to fall apart under scrutiny. That delicate balance between realism and absurdity was crucial. He'd bite the bait, then realize just how off the mark his suspicions had been. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of energy again. It was nostalgic, like the old days when my pranks made him laugh, not worry. I figured this would remind him of the version of me he once adored. By Thursday evening, everything was in place. He came home from work worn down, which was perfect. People are easier to mislead when they're tired. I'd been mentally rehearsing all day, carefully calibrating every emotion. You can't sell a lie unless you believe it yourself. Once he settled into his evening routine, I sat down next to him on the couch and let a long silence stretch between us. When he finally asked what was bothering me, I took a deep breath and told him there was something serious I had to admit. I could feel the tension radiating off him. His voice rose immediately. "Is something wrong with the baby?" I shook my head. "No, the baby's fine," I said quietly, letting my eyes fill with tears. The emotions weren't forced. I've done enough theater to cry on cue. It's a skill I've refined over the years. "It's about me," I added softly. Something I did. His face twisted into exactly what I expected, confusion laced with dread. He squeezed my hand and asked me to explain. So I let out a shaky breath and told him what I'd planned, that I'd been cheating for a few months with someone from work. Pause for a second. I work remotely. There are no coworkers, and Felix is well aware of that. But with the tears, the solemn expression, and the heavy tone, he didn't connect the dots right away. "What are you saying?" he asked, still trying to process it. I continued the performance, telling him I met someone linked to one of my freelance clients, that it had started innocently and spiraled into something I regretted, that I wasn't even sure the baby was his anymore. I poured on the remorse, said I was ashamed, confused, unsure how to confess. Felix looked like I'd sucked all the oxygen from the room. He went pale and then began pacing, questions firing out one after another. How it started, why I did it, who the man was. I kept thinking, okay, now he's going to stop, think for a second, and realize how absurd this all is. Any moment now, he'll laugh, connect the dots, and realize it's all an elaborate prank. But he didn't. Instead, he became more agitated, pushing for names, timelines, locations. The more he probed, the deeper into the fiction I had to go. I told him the man's name was Martin, that he worked with one of my long-term clients, that we'd started chatting during a project, and from there things just escalated. The entire time I was spinning this tale, I kept thinking, seriously, Felix, think this through. When have I ever mentioned a Martin before? When do I even have the kind of contact with clients that would let something like this happen? I hardly leave the house, as it is. Where would I even find the time or space to have an affair? But there he stood, completely wrecked, asking if I actually had feelings for this imaginary man, pleading to know what this meant for our marriage. That's when it dawned on me. I may have gone too far. The whole point of the lie was that it would be obvious. A ridiculous fabrication that he'd immediately recognize as fake, because no one should know me better than he does. Instead, he looked like his whole world had just been shattered. So I stayed quiet, thinking he'd calm down, start putting the pieces together, realize this was all made up. I waited, certain that at any moment he'd snap out of it. But it didn't happen. He just kept walking back and forth, throwing out question after question. And honestly, watching him unravel like that, it gave me a strange sense of vindication. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because, for the first time in what felt like forever, he was present. No glancing at his phone, no empty reassurances or walking on eggshells around me because I'm pregnant. Just real, raw emotion. Then the mood shifted. He stopped moving, faced me, and his expression changed completely. It wasn't fury, it wasn't sadness. It was a kind of vacant stillness, as though someone had drained every ounce of life from him. I need you to be completely straight with me, he said, voice low and calm in a way that chilled me. Is this really the truth? That was the moment I was supposed to come clean, to laugh it off, admit it had all been a test. To explain I'd done it to jolt him out of his paranoia and make him see how distant he'd become, how he'd started treating me more like a stranger than his wife. But then I hesitated. Something in the way he looked, so hollow, so defeated, made me pause. And in that second, a small voice inside me whispered, maybe he needs to feel this. Maybe now he'll understand what it's like to be distrusted by someone you love. Just like he's been doubting me, monitoring my every move, questioning everything I do. So instead of ending it, I leaned into the lie. Yes, I whispered, letting the tears come freely. I'm telling the truth. I'm so sorry, Felix. And that's when he broke, but not with rage. He didn't yell or slam anything. He simply froze, staring blankly at the floor. Then, silently, he turned and walked into our bedroom. Moments later, he returned holding his gym bag. That hadn't been part of the script. He was supposed to be angry, maybe accuse me of being heartless, then realize it was all a stunt. We'd talk, work through it. He wasn't supposed to actually leave. Where are you going? I asked, and for the first time that night, a ripple of fear crept in. I can't stay here, he said flatly. I need time to think. Felix, wait. I started, but he cut me off before I could finish. Don't, he said. Just don't. I can't even look at you. And then he walked out, just like that, bag slung over his shoulder, out the door, into his car, and gone. I sat in silence for over an hour, staring at the door, waiting for it to open, waiting for my phone to light up with a message, something sarcastic, something playful. You really got me. That was cold but clever, but nothing came. Midnight passed and unease crept in. I called him. Straight to voicemail, tried again, still nothing. I sent a text telling him we needed to talk, that I had to explain. No response. I barely slept that night, just tossed and turned, stunned by how far things had spiraled. He wasn't supposed to believe it, not completely, not to the point of walking out on his pregnant wife, that he even could believe it, that he truly thought I'd betray him like that, wasn't just shocking, it was insulting. What must he think of me? By Friday morning, I called again. Voicemail. I sent another message saying I knew he was hurt, but we had to talk. Still silence. Saturday came, and my anxiety turned to fury. Maybe the joke had crossed a line, but disappearing instead of dealing with it like an adult, that wasn't okay. That wasn't how mature people deal with conflict. Now it's been 3 weeks, and I'm slowly starting to accept the truth. He's not coming back. At first, I convinced myself he was being theatrical, that he just wanted to make a point. But his number still routes me straight to voicemail. He hasn't answered a single message, not a word, not a sign, not even a whisper of forgiveness. I stopped by Travis's place, Felix's closest friend, convinced I'd find Felix's car parked out front. But the driveway was empty, no trace of him. That was last Monday. That same day, I finally broke and sent Felix a long message admitting everything. I told him the truth. Martin wasn't real. The entire story had been a setup, just a prank. I confessed it was all a test, something I came up with because he'd been acting withdrawn, controlling, and unusually suspicious. I genuinely thought he'd call right away, maybe even laugh it off, admit he overreacted, and come back home. But instead, he replied with 2 words. I know, that's all. Just I know. What the hell does that even mean? If he knew the whole thing was fake, why hasn't he returned? Why is he still avoiding me? I can't stop thinking about it. The more I try to understand, the more confused I become. So yesterday I called Travis directly. Honestly, I didn't expect him to answer, but to my surprise, he did. I asked where Felix was staying, and right then Travis stiffened, like I'd touched a nerve. Sienna, he said cautiously, Felix asked me not to tell you. Seriously, I'm his wife. I'm 8 months pregnant with our child. Yeah, Travis said, he knows that. But apparently, Felix needs time, space, as he put it, to sort things out. Sort what out, exactly? It was a prank gone sideways, not a betrayal. And now he's vanished instead of sitting down and having an adult conversation. That alone makes me question everything about our relationship. Travis started in on some speech about how Felix needs time to process and how I should respect his boundaries. Boundaries, he used that exact word, like I'm some unhinged stranger instead of the woman Felix committed his life to. I have every right to know where he is and whether or not he's planning on coming home. And now the silence is starting to spread. Friends, neighbors, people are noticing Felix hasn't been around. And when they ask me where he is, what am I supposed to say? That he walked out because I played a joke to test his trust and he believed every word? I'd sound completely unstable, so I've been using a safer lie that he's away for work. But honestly, I don't know how much longer I can keep that up, especially now that I'm visibly pregnant and about to give birth any day. People expect to see him. And truthfully, I'm done feeling bewildered. Now I'm getting angry. Sure, maybe the prank was a poor decision. Maybe I underestimated how he'd react. But vanishing for weeks? That's beyond excessive. Healthy couples talk through problems. A real husband doesn't disappear over a misunderstanding. The more I sit with it, the clearer it becomes. This isn't about me. It's about him. What kind of man abandons his pregnant wife instead of working through their problems? What kind of soon-to-be father runs away when things get tough? Maybe this is who he's been all along. Maybe the stability I thought we had was just him waiting for the first excuse to walk. Maybe he never trusted me at all, and that's why he believed my fake story without hesitation. I'm due in 3 weeks, and I'm starting to accept that I might be doing this on my own. And you know what? That's okay. I don't need someone who vanishes the second things get complicated. I'll raise this child on my own if I have to. And Felix? He'll have to live with the fact that he missed the birth of his child because he couldn't handle a joke. Yesterday, I saw his sister, Erin, at the grocery store. She gave me a look like I was poison. I tried to speak to her to explain it was a joke that got out of hand, that it wasn't real, but she didn't even acknowledge me, just turned her back and walked away. Now his whole family's treating me like I'm the villain. But I'm done carrying that shame. I'm done apologizing for being the woman I've always been. Felix married me, knowing I was spontaneous, unpredictable, and a little playful. He used to love that about me. If that's something he can no longer handle, if one harmless lie is enough for him to abandon everything, then that's his issue, not mine. I've got a baby coming and a future that needs me present. I'm not wasting another second chasing after someone who clearly doesn't want to stay. If Felix is willing to throw away 8 years over a single lapse in judgment, then maybe he never really valued any of it. And if that's the case, good riddance. I deserve someone who sticks it out, who works through the mess, not someone who walks away when things get uncomfortable. He made that choice. That's on him. And honestly, that's his loss. Truly, his loss. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.